For the bailout rescue plan had to happen one way or another.
Well, you know what? It absolutely had to have. They had to have an infusion. What I'm not sure they needed to throw $150 billion worth of pork barrel spending on the top of it for the most unbelievable stuff ever. But that's why we need change in Congress.
That's Congress. That's the reality of Congress.
Well,
right
but it shouldn't be. We need new leadership. That's why I'm running against Jim Moran. He is one of the most egregious spenders, and he stands for any tax increase. He wants nationalized health care. He wants just spend, and earmark money for anything and everything. I'm all for roads and getting Metro done and curing AIDS and finding a cure for cancer, but it's all these other individual earmarks that go out by the millions and the billions. And then all these other projects we're involved with just, you know, that really have no place. You know, we need a budget. And if you need money for your community, I support saying, okay, if we need X millions or billions or whatever it is, let's do it before the fiscal year ends to put the budget together for the next year like you would do if you're running a business. And then we have to operate within that framework instead of in the cloak of darkness going to ask for money.
Right. All right, I think I have a graphic here on the bailout package that kind of sums up the main points of it that maybe we can look at on for the viewers here. There was $700 billion, which I understand was to buy out default loans. $150 billion in pork, basically, which you already mentioned. Lenders can renegotiate default loans at the 90% of the current home value, not the old loan value, which may have been for a more inflated value. Lenders will get the more equity in return. Notes will be bought by the government if they still foreclose. And then, as I understand it, it will be voted on in stages, like 200 or 300 billion, something of that nature. They'll have to vote to continue it after that. Is that pretty much sum it up?
Yeah, pretty much. And again, in business, we look at things, you know, with problem, cause, solution. And in this particular case, we are just upside down from a solution standpoint because we don't have a Congress that works together in a common sense manner. Just like you heard Pelosi railing against George Bush, instead of coming out and saying, hey, by the way, I had a hand in it, you had a hand in it as a consumer, maybe you bought a home, no money down, no private mortgage insurance, etc. We all had a hand in it. I'm in the banking industry. The banking industry had a hand in it. The real estate brokers in our area, not doing a good job, all of them telling their clients the full spectrum of choices they had and, you know, trying to get people into programs that just were based on payment. Everybody's responsible. People who go out and lease cars that we have no business buying, you know, people that take out credit cards. Everybody living way beyond their means. And so I'm not saying you don't have the liberty to do whatever you want. I'm just saying we need to get a hold on that type of, I guess it's a cultural issue. And we just need to kind of tighten it up for a little bit. And as things relax a little bit, you can go about and maybe, you know, do some of the things you wanted to do. But I just think that that's the whole problem, is that Congress was asleep at the wheel and we have got a runaway train now.
Yeah, I normally provide a lot of good stats and stuff for my audience, and there's one I forgot today, but I noticed that as far as the donations from Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac to congressmen and senators, names in the top 5 of the list were people like Chris Dodd, Barney Frank, and Barack Obama.
Right.
And I believe Dodd and Frank were the same people that were overseeing the whole Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac scene, and they were opposing the regulation that was proposed by other members of Congress.
Right. Well, again, that's why I have really taken a strong stand against this cavalier, reckless earmark spending. You know, when you give people money and you take favors back, see, that's what America has a problem with. I don't think America has a problem with. They know that members of Congress, we have to bring back to the community a certain amount of federal resources, you know, within reason, because there are things that we do need to be involved. That's not the issue. But when you do things that say, like for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and they're giving you all these contributions, and then they've got charitable organizations and this and that, and you know what, it's just all a tangled mess. And then you have to come out and say, oh, by the way, try not to be too tough on them. And as you saw some of the other highlights from times past where members of Congress were saying, oh, there's no problem with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they're good. When the reality was, it was a mess that was boiling. And Frank and Dodd and Barack Obama, of course, you know, they're getting a check. And that's why I really would like to see this country move more towards eliminating earmark spending, making it so we have to operate within a budget. And unless you've got an emergency piece of legislation you need to pass, say for instance, I need to go and do something specific for my community, I have no problem going down to the floor of the House and saying, by the way, we need funding for this. But I don't know why we don't operate within a budget and say, okay, these are all the items we need. And then I think we need to tighten down all of these PACs and that type of thing, just pouring money. My opponent, Jim Moran, earmarks money by the millions to all these defense contractors. Well, I support defense contractors, but is that really fair that if you look at his donations, they come in $5,000 shots from all these organizations who he's earmarking money for? That's not right. And that's what we got to get away from. And that's why we don't have candidates. That's why we don't have transparency. That's why nobody runs for Congress. Nobody gets involved. You look at Arlington and Alexandria, it's a one-trick pony. I mean, there are no people running for office there. Half the races in the state go unopposed. So I just say that's the problem, is that people get tied into the system and then nobody can or wants to get involved in the process. So we don't have true democracy.
Right. If Congress, the approval ratings right now are like 10, 12%, whatever, maybe even
on
13,
a good day,
depending on the polls. And yet I feel that, with all those House seats up for re-election, I'll bet you at least 50% of them get re-elected.
Well, the reason why is because people get complacent and people don't get involved in the process. People don't care. And whether I'm out talking to people on the street, I have so many people come up and say, oh, by the way, you're running against Jim Moran? Great. We don't agree with him on, whether it's some of the issues surrounding his conduct or earmarks or other things. And I say, okay, well, can we count on you to get involved? And, well, I don't, we don't need, I don't know. That's the problem. You see, everybody is kind of, well, yeah, okay, I might vote or I might not. That's the problem. We have no life, and we need some energy and enthusiasm, and it's more than just blind ambition and saying, oh, by the way, I'm just going to jump on a candidate's bandwagon because he gives a great speech, or it makes you feel like you're at a union meeting. Mm-hmm.
There's a general apathy, you're saying, for example.
That is a good word. People are apathetic. They just, okay, well, hey.
I've noticed that. I'm obviously not one of them. That's why I'm on this show serving my community. I don't get paid for this show. Simply trying to serve the community by giving them an objective shot at politics and political candidates. Now, why don't we take a break here, Mark, and from discussing the hardcore issues, and tell people maybe a little bit about yourself and why you think you're qualified to be a congressman.
Well, I was born and raised here. Grew up in Alexandria over in a neighborhood called Virginia Hills. I was one of 7 kids. My father passed away when I was just 4 years old. He died from brain cancer. He was a federal firefighter, and my mother took a job as a government secretary and raised all 7 children, never remarried, and that's where I got my work ethic and determination from. I think that having that to fall back on and say, wow, I mean, I had a mom get up at 5 o'clock, 5:30 every morning, in the coldest of weather and the dead of summer heat, etc., and go and work every day and set the example there. I started out working myself when I was just 14 years old, and I actually would be shipped out to my sister's, who was subsequently, several years older than I am, but she had gotten married when she was 20, and by the time I was 8, 9, 10 years old, I was working on a dairy farm in Kentucky for months at a time every summer, to take care of my sister, my younger sister and I. Mm-hmm. And, it was just a great work ethic. I went to school here, attended a community college, did some work at George Mason. I've started my career here, lived here my entire life, and been in work at the bank for 32 years now.